Cars are a work of art, and very often we tend to forget the beauty and passion that goes behind making such a marvel of engineering. The 2016 Volkswagen Beetle is an icon. It enjoys a legendary status, so wherever you go with it, it's gonna make your heads turn. And why not? With such an iconic design and the history associated with it, it definitely deserves to. Today we're gonna drive it, look at the technology inside and everything about this iconic Volkswagen Beetle. Now this is the Volkswagen Beetle that you're driving, and as soon as you step in behind the steering wheel, you get a bright smile on your face. You're sitting behind the wheels of a legend, an icon that makes heads turn on the roads. And well, much of it is because of what it looks like on the outside. And what it is on the inside is a very stable, pliant drive. It is not as enthusiastic or responsive than a few other cars close to its segment deliver. But what it once again does is make you feel like you're in a very safe car that is very well built, and it's also well equipped. 148 horses is what you get on the power. So on the highway you can take quick overtakes, but this is not the quickest or the most nimble-footed car in the segment. So that also it does feel a little more grounded rather than more quickly responsive. And even the steering wheel, it's good to respond, although there is a slight dead center in the middle. The 7-speed DSG gearbox does the job really well in terms of quick, fast shifts, which also helps you to overtake as well. And all of this considered together with the exterior design, the plush interiors, the modern infotainment system, and the drive dynamics is what makes the Volkswagen Beetle so special. So now that we're inside the Volkswagen Beetle, it's time to take a look at the technology that is on offer. We'll start with the infotainment panel. It still gets a CD player and of course Bluetooth and a USB, SD card and an aux port. So you get pretty much every connectivity setting you would want. Moving on to the touch screen, it's a 7-inch panel and you get a pretty fairly responsive touchscreen display, which is also multicolor, which allows you to watch photos as well from your CDs, from SD cards and from USB drives. Apart from that, you get an FM AM radio, your music control from whichever setting you're gonna play music from, telephone controls which are going to show you contacts depending on what you have, who you've called and everything. Now importantly, this telephone setting works for Bluetooth connections, and when you're connected via USB, your phone will register as Android Auto or Apple CarPlay and Bluetooth will be dropped, which tapping here is going to direct you straight to Apple CarPlay, which nevertheless works. Moving on to the app ecosystem, you get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and Android MirrorLink, which are all listed here. As you can see, we've connected our iPhone over here. From the device list, you can access which device is connected, and we have the iPhone connected, which is why Apple CarPlay is highlighted. We're gonna quickly tell you about the differences between Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as well. But before that, we're gonna give you the overview of everything else that you get. You do miss a satellite navigation unit in the Volkswagen Beetle, but you can get it via Google Maps with Android Auto, which is gonna give you a graphic display as well, and via voice on iPhone, also through Google Maps. You can access your photos via CD, USB and SD cards, which you can load and check out which photos you've taken of late with your camera, which is a pretty neat little addition. And then you have your sound settings, which you can adjust volume. You get your equalizer, which is pretty decently versatile, and then you get your balance and fader depending on which speaker or which corner of the car you want the audio to come from. And you can switch on or off the touchscreen tone. We switched it off because we don't really like too many beeps coming around. And then you get the final settings where you can access your display settings. You can choose it to be bright or dim. You can choose your animations to be on or off depending on your preference. You can choose your language, a keypad when you type out your phone numbers and contacts, and you get of course more languages. You can choose to enable or disable data transmission for Volkswagen apps when you're connected to this system. And you get your Bluetooth settings, which you will be needing to pair your devices with. So that's as much as Volkswagen's infotainment system comes with. There's not much wizardry here, but what this does is provide you everything that you're gonna need and leave out anything that you might want in a luxurious car. But nevertheless, this does get the job done. Now, connecting your phone with Bluetooth is also fairly easy. You just go to the settings and you quickly scroll to Bluetooth, and once you've paired, you can find your devices in paired devices. Here you can see we have paired our phone, and you can also search for devices from here and pair, which is a fairly straightforward affair. This allows you control over music, which you can play from here, and you can select your source from here, which includes CD, SD card, USB, Bluetooth and auxiliary, which is fairly exhaustive. This is the music interface. It's fairly straightforward. You get a music selection button over here, which gives you access to your playlist and radio. You get your music navigation buttons, shuffle and repeat, and it actually looks like a smartphone display. You get your time, you get your network status, you get your battery status, you get the status at which your phone is at, and then you go to settings, and here you can get mix or repeat, including subfolders of music. And for the sound, it directs you back to the sound interface, where you can choose how you want your audio to be. Moving on to the other features of Bluetooth connectivity, you can choose telephone, and you can select up to 4 contacts that you want to call, which are your most called numbers regularly. So these act like a speed dial of sorts, and you can dial your number from here. You get a keypad, and you can access your contacts from here, and you get to see your recent call list as well in one chart, or you can select multiple charts depending on how you prefer it and how it's easier for you to operate. And going to settings, you can choose which phone's telephone you want to access. If you have multiple devices connected, you can choose user profiles as you would need or want, and you can choose hold and conference calling, active or inactive, depending on what you're comfortable with when you're driving. So that's as much as your phone controls that you get. App Connect, let us remind you that App Connect will not work when you're connected via Bluetooth. So you won't get Apple CarPlay when you're connected on Bluetooth, of course. Unfortunately, you do not get images from Bluetooth connectivity, which we feel is something that might have been a neat little addition. But nevertheless, this is what you get with Bluetooth, and it's a fairly decent smartphone screen relayed onto your infotainment system, so to say. Now, for a car like this, when you're traveling in such style and swagger, music of course plays a very important part of it, and you get plenty of music controls over here. You can connect wirelessly with Bluetooth. You can also connect multiple devices, so your partner driving with you can also connect his or her phone to the console. You get your auxiliary port and USB, which are residing at the bottom of the pillar. You get an SD card channel, and you also get a CD drive. Now we're going to quickly show you how the music playback works when you switch on your music app on your phone and you search for it, and then you tap on media to get the interface over here. And once you play it, you quickly see that this interface is fairly similar to what you would see on many smartphones. We're going to turn up the volume from this knob. The Bluetooth connectivity over here is actually fairly responsive, and there are no connection lags per se. You also get to choose shuffle and repeat directly from this interface. Source, of course, you can control from here, and audio selection from here. So once you go to my songs, you get all the songs that are stored on your phone. These are all my local music that is stored on my phone, and it's good to see that it has read all the songs without any sort of mistake or any sort of lags, which we often find in a lot of infotainment systems. Another thing about this audio system is that you get a standard 4-speaker, 4-tweeter layout, but that gives you a pretty wholesome audio. It does feel pretty powerful and pretty theatrical when you're driving on the road, and especially at high speeds you're urged to enjoy the drive, and that's exactly what the Volkswagen Beetle is about. So for the most part, the music playback absolutely does its job. If you don't want to connect via Bluetooth, then you can simply connect your phone to the USB and you get a notification that Apple CarPlay is being connected, and your music is quickly shifted to Apple CarPlay, where you get an iPhone interface and you can switch to music to get the Apple Music interface. In terms of calling, of course, when you get a call in between listening to music, it's gonna turn up exactly the way it does in an iPhone. We are going to decline it for the time being. And all of this works pretty seamlessly. As you can see, there's no lag or there's no lack in terms of response, which is pretty impressive and which is exactly what you'd expect from a car like the Volkswagen Beetle. Now you can also pair to your infotainment system with Android Auto, which is a little complicated than Apple CarPlay, which is just plug and play. For Android Auto to work, you have to first download the Android Auto app on your phone, connect this with Bluetooth, enable all permissions on your device and on this one. Then you connect your phone to the system via USB, and then you choose your phone from the console, and that's when you get your first welcome screen for Android Auto. You get a tutorial of sorts where you can choose to see how Android Auto would work. It is a standard tutorial that gives you a quick view of everything that you can expect with Android Auto. And once you open it, as we've seen previously, this is a fairly straightforward setup of an Android smartphone that you would expect. You get your time and charge and your connectivity settings. This acts as a home button, and this once again can get you back to the central console. You can choose to go to navigation, and this is the best part about Android Auto, where you get Google Maps, and this is something that we are really used to. Navigate me to Noida Sector 2.
Navigating to Sector 2.
So there you go. This is something that Volkswagen's Beetle's...
Southeast, then turn left.
This is what Volkswagen Beetle's integrated infotainment system really misses.
You are on the fastest route and your route is clear.
And you do not get a sat-nav, but Google Maps is of course there to get the job done for you. Android Auto by itself is a little stuttery, which you would experience. For instance, you get these lags when you load, which is not something that you would really like, so to say. When you get to your phone contacts, this is what you're gonna get, and then you can switch to your home panel, where all the actions that you take are stored as cards. As you can see, you're gonna get the weather card all the time, and then your navigation card as and when you would be using it. So that's as much as Android Auto gets. You can also switch to music to get access to Google Play Music if you have music stored on your phone. That's how Android Auto works, but connecting it is a little bit of a hassle. We tried connecting this to a OnePlus 3T, which somehow failed because of some pairing mistake. But apart from that, it does work fairly fine. It does give you Google Maps, which is very crucial if you do rely on navigation regularly. You also get voice command support, and you can control a lot of actions via Siri over here. You just long press on the virtual home button that you get. Call Porish Chaudhary.
Calling Porish Chaudhary.
So it's a fairly easy to use voice input, and it does make life a lot easier. Now the Volkswagen Beetle doesn't get rear parking cameras, but it does get what we've also seen in previous Volkswagen cars, the standard parking sensor switch, pressing which brings up the Park Pilot screen over here. You get 4 sensors up front and 4 sensors to the rear, which give you a pretty thorough idea of how close or how close or far you are to the nearest obstacle. And you might think that not having a camera would be a little difficult when you're parking into tight spots, but once you get used to it, once you get to know how it goes off, once you gauge the details of the distance from which the sensors keep on alerting you, it is a fairly easy setup to use and is a pretty helpful and easy one to use as well. Now the dual zone climate control inside the Volkswagen Beetle does everything that you would expect it to do, and you get all direction controls over here for the air. You get dual channel climate control, you get to sync climate control, sync temperatures as far as you would need. This is the blower, and the thing about the blower is that it is not very noisy, and the amount of noise it makes is what you would more or less expect, of course. And you get 2 temperature controls with defoggers as well. You get your AC on off over here, and you get the defoggers on this end. And interestingly, for the Volkswagen Beetle, you also get electrically heated seats, which are not ventilated but are electrically heated, which can keep you very comfortable when you're driving in the winters, which is one really neat addition to the Volkswagen Beetle. The Volkswagen Beetle gets a 7-speed DSG gearbox, and it's really responsive. It shifts quickly and gives you a fairly responsive drive ahead, and you do get a sports mode as well, and you can shift to manual mode on the drive, which you can connect from the gear knob, and alternatively you can also connect via paddle shifters that you get on the steering wheel. The overall transmission is really smooth, and shifts are quite quick and shift around the 2000 rpm mark, which is pretty decent for a nifty responsive drive. Now when we finally shift from the central pillar to the steering side, you get your standard arrangement of the tacho, the fuel gauge and the speedometer with the multi-information display, which does seem a little old school, but that does fit the Volkswagen Beetle. You get a pretty nicely leather wrapped steering wheel, which has a pretty good feel also, and it has tilt and telescopic adjustment, so you can pull it forward and push it upwards depending on your driving position, and then you can lock it from the lever below. And once you're done with that, you get a clear view of the multi-information display, which gives you trip details, the temperature outside, the timing, the transmission it is now on, the gear it is now on, and then you get fuel range, you get your average mileage consumption, the fuel consumption, you get instant fuel consumption, you get a total time of travel hours since you last reset the trip meter, speed warning on the road that you're driving at, and you get your coolant temperature and oil temperature, and a digital speedometer, an odometer, and total distance since the last trip has been made. So a pretty exhaustive MID, which we have seen in Volkswagen cars before, and it does get the job done, gives you all the details, and all of this can be controlled from the steering wheel. From the right hand side controls, you can also access other settings on the MID. For instance, here's the multifunctioning unit that gives you all the statistics, and if you shift left, you get your audio details depending on what you're connected from, what song you're playing, and you can then shift to the other settings which give you language, data, costing details, time, units, and service information, and you can go back to factory settings depending on whether you want to or not. So a pretty exhaustive MID, which does allow you to not need to look at the infotainment screen if you want to concentrate on the road only and operate everything from here. So you also get a sunroof over here along with the blackened interior, linen, which looks and feels so good. The sunroof has two steps. One, you get the net covering which you can pull back, and then you get the sunroof which you can control from this knob over here, and you get stepwise control, so you can open it as much as you want. And this is the max you can get the sunroof open, so when you're driving along you can get your co-passenger to step out and enjoy the sun when you just sit here and drive. Closing it back is also very simple, where you just turn the lever back and the sunroof shuts down. Apart from that, you get light switches over here for door control and manual lights. You can also choose to switch on individual lights as per convenience, and the overall car, to contrast the white exterior, gets a fully black interior which looks really good. The thing about the interiors is that it's supposed to make you feel special, and why not? You're sitting inside the Volkswagen Beetle, and quite rightfully it really does. In contrast to the white exterior, you get a full black interior. You get black leather seats, even the rear seats are leather, with a nice black fabric lining on the top and black plastic usage across the console, with a dash of glossy white plastic to contrast, and all of this makes it look really stately, and true to Volkswagen style, it looks very special as well. And you also get a sunroof which you can control from here, and it does add a sense of space and a sense of plushness to the entire car. But this car is supposed to be the front seat car. It's meant for you and your co-passenger, but you do get two seats at the back. If you closely look at it, it's not entirely spacious, but we sat there, and you do manage to sit there. So if you're going for a short haul, if you have to go with two more passengers, you can do that. And to get inside, this is the 3-door car, so to get inside you have to push the front seat forward and get in, which is a slight bit of a struggle, but not too difficult. But all things considered, the Volkswagen Beetle's interiors are really plush and premium, which is exactly what it is meant to be. Well, so that sums up our experience of the Volkswagen Beetle. It is a design icon that makes a statement wherever you go. Along with that, you get a pretty responsive, peppy drive that you would enjoy, and even a ride quality to boot. With that, you get modern elements as well, with a thorough infotainment system including Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and all of this combined makes the Volkswagen Beetle such an experience. It is not just about one element, but all of this combined is what makes you feel special. That's it from the Volkswagen Beetle. We've had a lot of fun reviewing it. Stay tuned on digit.in for more such reviews.